day I chose not to let anything win but my drive to get me to the top.
Frank Lee made the beat.
What it do, KTTV? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with another episode of the Daily K Podcast. And on today's episode, we are taking it back to H-Town. We have Miss Kelly Burnett, the Activation and Volunteer Manager at Houston Parks Board. How you doing today, Miss Burnett?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here.
Hey, I wanted to say thank you for taking some time out of the busy schedule. I know we talked a little before we start taping about just the hustle and bustle since the new year. So thank you for taking a few minutes today.
It's a pleasure. I'm glad we were able to meet and set this up.
Hey, fun times. So before we jump into things, I like to do a wellness check because it's been crazy. So how have you been doing during the pandemic, and how are you staying safe?
It's a really good question because it all feels like it's a little bit too normal now. But we've been working from home now since March, and I'm really lucky that we can do that, and we can still keep the work moving forward from home. I have a nice little tiny office, which is kind of great to have and stay safe that way. But all things considered, it's been such a hectic 2020, and 2021 hasn't, in the U.S. been any more calm. But it's, I think, kind of showing us that parks are still important, and it's really nice to still be able to push Houston Parks Board's work forward.
Yeah. And like you say, it's so important because if there is no other place that we can space out and be safe and still enjoy each other, it's in the park.
That's so true.
Yeah. So give us a little bit of background on you and your work in nonprofits, and how did you get connected with Houston Parks Board?
Cool. So I've been with the nonprofit world more or less since I graduated. I started with the Student Conservation Association. I have to shout them out. They're an awesome organization. And I did a service year with them with Student Conservation Association, AmeriCorps, and the National Park Service. And I was in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So went from being a Texas girl living in the Midwest up and, just plopped down in the middle of a Minneapolis summer. So I was able to get acclimated, and I loved the work. We doubled volunteer engagement rates, and it was a really fun place to learn for that year. But once we got to the winter, it wasn't my cup of tea. So by the time the next summer rolled around, I'm from Houston and was so excited that I got to move back here in 2016 and started out with Memorial Park Conservancy, which was another really great team and a great place to learn. And I moved over, had the opportunity to start with Houston Parks Board just about 2 years ago on the dot. I think urban parks are something that I'm passionate about. It's relatively new as a field itself, but I think it's really important to focus on green space and park resources that we have in the city and how to ensure that everyone gets a chance to enjoy a great park regularly. I'm a kid from Katy, and so I was kind of blessed to have those, trees to climb and parks down the street. But if we keep building the way we've been building, that won't always exist. And I think there's also a lot of pockets that have been overlooked for years. And so it's a really great time to be in urban parks. And it's been a blast so far.
Man, putting in that work. And that's the thing about it. So many people I know in the nonprofit world have really been putting in the work for a while. And so they just always say it's not an overnight thing, but the work is so rewarding because, like you say, it's so many places overlooked, and you get to put a little shine on those places.
Yeah.
Yes, I am a Minnesota Vikings fan. And so my goal is to always go to a game, but I can't do the snow. It looks a little too cold for me. So I want to say I agree with you on the winters. I'll keep it the next time.
They have that nice new stadium, so you could stay nice and warm. But
yeah, I think this should be it.
Oh gosh, yeah, it is. It's something else. It's a different type of cold up there.
Different. So when we think about memories of our childhood and just simply playing outside, especially for me, a lot of it from Shreveport, we have like this thing called SPAR, Parks and Recreation for Shreveport. But everything revolves around, just like you say, those green spaces and the parks. Giving us a little bit of information about Houston Parks Board. What all do you all do in the city? And finish it up by just telling us, how do y'all maintain all of these green spaces?
It's not an easy task. So I'm the activation and volunteer manager at Houston Parks Board. It's a general term, essentially means I support programs and initiatives at Houston Parks Board that get people outside, get them using the parks and trails that we build or we maintain. So I do manage the volunteer program, which isn't active at the moment to keep our volunteers and staff safe, but we're working on the 50/50 Parks Initiative, Healthy Outdoor Communities, Rising Leaders. I'm sure we'll talk about all that later on. But for those who may not know us, Houston Parks Board is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we connect Houstonians to public park and green space. And we've been working on parks in the greater Houston area since 1976. And the mission is truly just to create, improve, protect, and advocate for parks for everyone. So it's an exciting mission. It's a lot to tackle. Parks are, truly essential to health and happiness. But for the city as a whole, it's important for connectivity, the economy, and Houston Parks Board is part of the puzzle that makes that happen. And I'm sure we'll dive into Bayou Greenways. But you asked about maintenance. And greenway maintenance is something we take really seriously. From the beginning of Bayou Greenways, we needed to assure the donors who generously supported the development of Bayou Greenways that the facilities that we built with their funds would be safe and well maintained, not just now, but for future generations. So we have a fully funded maintenance program based on national standards that has kind of been built from the ground up by a really great team at Houston Parks Board and with a lot of help from agencies around Houston. And there's now a bayou supervisor on the ground for each bayou every day of the week. So depending on which bayou you live near, you probably recognize the person who's out there working because they cruise by and keep that keep that human kind of eyes on the greenways. And so that's part of our maintenance. We're simplifying it quite a bit, but it's maintenance is a handful.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you can simplify all of the trails and parks that you all have. It's a feat. So shout out to that. And I know you mentioned the Bayou Greenways. I was looking at the site as I was preparing for the interview, and that was the first thing I ran across. And so the numbers: 150 miles of trails, 3,000 acres of green space. Mm-hmm. And so I know that you have the Bayou Greenways program. So talk to us a little bit about that and what's the plan.
Totally. So as you mentioned, Houston Parks Board is connecting 150 miles of trail and bayou as part of the Bayou Greenways 2020 initiative. And, approximately now we have 122 miles open to the public, and the remaining miles are in various stages of planning, design, construction, but it's all in the works right now. Just to kind of go back to the beginning, you have to go back more than 100 years ago. In 1912, Arthur Comey came out with his first comprehensive city development plan for Houston. And the bayous were part of that, kind of envisioned as the backbone of a network, connecting parks and trails and connecting people. And so that's where the idea comes from. Kind of almost 100 years after that, the Houston Parks Board was inspired by the idea of it, looked back at the plan and took it back to the drawing board for the 21st century and what our city looked like at the time. So it's great because almost exactly 100 years after that plan came out. And so November 2012, Houston voters overwhelmingly approved a major bond referendum, and they set aside $100 million for Bayou Greenways 2020. And then Houston Parks Board took it further, and we're responsible for raising an additional $120 million in private funds just to make it happen. And we're so thrilled because the Kinder Foundation came forward with the lead gift of $50 million for the project. And just last year in 2020, we were able to achieve and surpass our goal for Bayou Greenways. And so in total, it was $225 million. We're really proud to hit that target. So fascinating story from the beginning, but at the heart of it, Bayou Greenways 2020 has been an invitation for Houstonians to, get closer to family and friends, work in our city. It's a network of trails across the city, and we're really excited to see it through.
And now I am going to remember that name and that information because that leads into the next point.
That's right.
The trivia night. So I was fortunate enough to MC for anybody that doesn't know, and it was fun. I had an awesome time for the Rising Leaders Trivia Night, as well as I was able to post the article in the newsletter. And it's been going crazy. Like my phone has been going off all day. So awesome. Thank you for that. But speaking of those two ways, and talk a little bit about the trivia night, but what other ways are you really engaging the community and getting the word out about the Houston Parks Board?
Well, we loved having you at Trivia Night. It was a blast. It was part of Rising Leaders, which is a group of passionate and diverse individuals actively supporting our mission. And we're growing this group now to kind of help us deepen connections between people and parks and further the awareness of Houston Parks Board these days. And that's one of the meaningful engagement opportunities that, as stewards of the Bayou Greenways, we're making happen now. And we've got a couple of upcoming events with Rising Leaders. We do a bi-monthly lunch and learn, and it's a virtual event, and we schedule them at noon on Thursdays. So it really just helps people come in and get to know a little bit more about a topic that Houston Parks Board focuses on. So we'll have one in March, on March 25th, about civic engagement, which will be really not too dissimilar to what we're talking about today. And then May 27th, we'll cover all about wildlife. It's a time when bats start to come out. And so we've got a couple of good speakers on that one too. So those will be announced via HoustonParksBoard.org. We've got an events page there. But Rising Leaders is a really exciting group. There's no criteria to join. Everyone's welcome and no cost to membership. It's our way to spread awareness and another way for us to spread awareness and sharing our work online. And, it's really great for word of mouth and getting people a little bit more engaged. So that's one of the ways. I'm also involved with Healthy Outdoor Communities, and it is an initiative that we got involved with in 2019. It's made possible from a grant from the Hogg Foundation for Mental Health. We're one of the Communities of Care grantees, and that's the Hogg Foundation's first ever preventative mental health grant focus. And we thought, what better way to improve the community's mental and physical health than investing in parks and getting people outdoors. So that initiative focuses on Acres Home and Third Ward. And we work closely with schools, nonprofits, government agencies, and especially and most importantly, the community members to collaboratively bring more opportunities to the neighborhoods to expand green space use, all in the hopes of improving mental and physical health by getting people outside. We have two awesome partners on that initiative, really important, Nature and Eclectic Outdoors, a great nonprofit, and then Texas A&M School for Public Health has been working with us to make sure that we can, involve the community and make sure that data is there to back up whatever we do next. So if listeners are in that neighborhood, Acres Home's Third Ward, we definitely encourage them to participate, share feedback, and join the planning team. We have a collaborative meeting where we truly make an effort to share leadership there. And if you don't live in the neighborhood, we would love the volunteer support on that. And there's more information about Healthy Outdoor Communities on the website. So just two more initiatives that I'll highlight. But first, the Neighborhood Partnership Program. And I think this is important. It's been one of the process or one of the initiatives or programs that Houston Parks Board has done since the beginning, since the 70s. And in addition, currently now to doing the Bayou Greenways, which is such a huge undertaking, we still focus on improving and transforming local parks through the Neighborhood Partnership Program. And through this program, we're able to provide technical and strategic support to groups interested in being stewards to the parks in their own backyard. And so we're working cooperatively with the community group that comes forward and wants to do a park project. We're also working, of course, with our close partners at the Houston Parks and Rec Department. If anyone has been to Nellie Keys Park or Carl Young, Tanglewood, or JC Park, those are all Neighborhood Partnership Program projects. And so if that kind of sparked an interest with anybody, that there's more details on the website there. And finally, one of my favorite activities that we host, we started using the app Agents of Discovery just before the pandemic hit, but it works perfectly in this socially distant world. It's a way to encourage families to explore trails and green spaces, and you'll love this. So it's an educational mobile gaming platform. It's an app, and it uses augmented reality to get kids outside. So it's super cool. You download the app, you select a mission nearby. So we always have 3 missions around the city, and we will change them at a regular pace, you know. You select the mission near you, you take your phone to that park, and then you find and answer the challenges along that path that we've created for you. So you're, using your feet to walk through the sort of game that we've created, and you're answering the challenges or doing the activities as you go. There's like 6 or 7 throughout the path. So really unique and fun spin on like a scavenger hunt or something like that. We typically keep them to about a half a mile, sometimes a mile, but usually in that range. And it's designed for all ages, but I try to target it for like a 4th or 5th grade learning level. So really great for teachers. They can assign it as like an extra credit project, especially at that age group, like 4th, 5th, 6th. It's perfect for that. Or a family who's looking for something to all do together. It can be a lot of fun. And even my friends I've sent out there, go test my mission. But they have a lot of fun because it's kind of reminiscent of that Pokemon Go when that was really popular a few years ago. It actually gets you on your feet, and yes, you're looking at the screen, but you're kind of thinking about where you are. So it's a lot of fun. And so currently there's one in Herman Park. We worked with Herman Park Conservancy to build one in the Bayou Parklands, kind of the natural area of Herman Park by the bayou there. And then we have 2 in the OST South Union neighborhood. In George T. Nelson Park, and there is a Martin Luther King Jr. Focused mission right now at Park at Palm Center. And OST South Union is a neighborhood where we're working collaboratively with the community on a park plan. So we've got 2 live there right now to get the neighborhood out there and active.
Man, that is awesome, and it definitely reminds me of the Pokemon Go,
Yeah.
but these days everyone is looking at the screen, but not everybody is moving. So if you can get both going, hey, big shout out.
Mm-hmm.
So that is awesome. Thinking about that, one part of that community engagement is volunteering. And although, like you say, right now it's kind of shut down due to the pandemic, there will be a time. And so how big do volunteers play? And if I want to do that within my community, how do I go about getting signed up with you all, and what does it look like?
Well, volunteering is one of my favorite things. That's been the string that's kind of connected all of my nonprofit jobs so far. But it's important at Houston Parks Board. As we have these green spaces, come online as they're built, they move into our maintenance program. And that is, as I'm sure you can imagine, a small staff. And they are small and mighty. They have contractors who help them, but there will always be gaps in what they can do when you're talking about 3,000 acres of green space when it's all said and done, 150 miles of trail. It's hard to imagine. So we, in 2019, really started to drill down on where volunteers can be best placed. And so we have some, in a world pre-March 2020, we had some great conservation volunteer events. Monthly, the green team meets, and then we'll do usually 3 or 4 is our target for larger days, either in conservation or maintenance. So we'll do like a prairie planting. You scatter wildflower seeds. It was a really successful event in February of last year. We had 100 people at 2 different sites, and it's a lot of fun. That's where you can come together as a family, and it's on a weekend, and people go get lunch afterwards, and it's a lot of fun. And we'll also bring in, whenever we can, do so safely, we will do volunteer events on our wetland areas. We'll do them in forest areas, and then another one in the prairie. So exciting, diversity, because the system is so large. We have a lot of different types of bayous, different types of plants that are out there. And so primarily our volunteers are working on the conservation side. But I will mention, rising leaders, they volunteer kind of behind the scenes supporting staff, which is a really great way to get involved. And then we have event volunteers for when we're able to do events. But like you said, yeah, it's inactive right now due to the pandemic, and we just felt like safety of our volunteers was a priority, and we were able to kind of transition back to just having that maintenance team on staff, really focus on that and be able to do that safely. But I'm always telling people, become stewards of your own green space. There's informal ways to do it. You don't have to come to us or go through a way to, pick up trash when you see it on your walk, for example. But once we're back up and running, we'll have our volunteer opportunities on HoustonParksBoard.org. We have a volunteer page. And one of the things that we've been doing while the program is inactive is really revamping our volunteer management platform. And so it's going to be really easy to select different days you want to come and join and add them to your calendar. And so that process we're cleaning up right now, kind of using our time. Never sitting on our haunches here, but they, depending on the person, you might want to sign up for e-communications rather than just checking back, or maybe you're not a social media person, you don't want to follow Houston Parks Board. We do have an e-communication. You just scroll down to the bottom of our website and give us your email. Tell us what you want to hear about. So we're not telling you about all kinds of different things. You can focus on what you're exactly wanting to hear about. And if volunteering is one of them, then there you go. And I have to shout out our really close partner, Houston Parks and Recreation Department. They are still in need of volunteers, and they do things like maintenance, tree plantings, conservation efforts, very similar to ours. And they have a really great staff and the program to make it safe, which is wonderful that they're able to do that. So if that's something people want to do, this weekend, tomorrow, sooner rather than later, HoustonTX.gov/parks/volunteer is the spot to go there.
That's cool. And I was thinking about what you said about Acres Home. And so my friend has a pretty prominent business up there. And so I'll definitely see if I can't get you together, because he is in the community, like in the
Love
community.
that.
Yes, that would be awesome. So I'll see if I can get to work on that tonight. All right. So
Recruiting.
look, we all got to get it together. So as I close out, I want to think about the people who may have lost that feel for outdoors, and that nostalgia, like something like, just playing in the park, being a kid, and sharing that feeling on to their kids. Because these days, like you say, it's video game world. So what would you tell those residents to get them out and enjoying themselves in some of the green spaces in the city?
Yeah, I'll agree with you. It's probably tougher now than it was when we were growing up to get kids outside. There's just so much more to compete with. So I think the the beauty of the Bayou Greenways is the simplicity of the system. There's public green spaces and trails in just about every corner of the city. And best of all, they're free and they're open to everyone to make it your own. And so if someone's looking for a new trail to explore, especially in January, great time to, establish new habits. HoustonParksBoard.org has a page dedicated to recommended trips, and they focus on all different bayous, and they have all different spins. So there's, one on going to check out public art, or taking the kids on their bikes downtown. But there's kind of something for everyone. We tried to build a list that something would appeal to everyone. And then we have an interactive map as well. So if you're just looking for the one that's closest to you, or you want to find a new route, that's where to go. And I think there's over 380 parks in the Houston Parks and Recreation System alone. It's just insane. And that doesn't even mention the county parks or all the other great parks that are out there. And so there is one near you. And with so many of us now working from home, and, if you're not, you're still living under a more stressful condition these days than you were before. And it's just more important than ever to get outside and recharge. There's a lot of evidence out there to support the fact that spending time in fresh air can improve your mental and physical health, especially for youth and especially for seniors. And heck, even if it's, a walk around the block, it helps. It's, something that's a must have. It feels like it's a nice to have, but truly it's, it's necessary to your health. And we feel it's really important to the health of your community when people are out there walking and saying hello to their neighbors, 6 feet apart. You're a healthier city as a whole. And that's I've heard Mayor Turner say it before, and it's something that's really important to Houston Parks Board as well. It's, we're all about inspiring Houstonians to spend more time outdoors, however you do it. And take advantage of public parks and trails that are there for you around the city.
Be a verb. I love it. Hey, so what's next for Houston Parks Board? And then give us the contact information. How do we find everything?
Cool. Yeah, there's, virtual events, like I said, every other month, and we're constantly updating that Agents of Discovery missions, and our recommended trips are always adding to those. So the best place to view it is online, HoustonParksBoard.org, O-R-G, or our social media is just at Houston Parks Board, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, we're there, and give us a like, and we're sharing regularly as things come up, so that might be a great way to keep in touch. If folks are inspired to get out there and use the Bayou Greenways, we have a hashtag, hashtag #ParksByU, nice little pun, so that way we can see what everyone's up to and exciting things that are happening out there on the bayous.
Awesome. Wow. So thank you so much today for, really giving us a nice background of the work that you all do here in the city. People go out to play, walk, run, exercise, football, soccer, but you never think about the background of how this is possible, right? Because of the maintenance, like you say, and just everything between you all and the recreation side. So thank you for the lessons. Thank you for the talks, and we look forward to sharing, and I look forward to the next event.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. This is KT for KT TV signing out. 100.